everybody. I'm Catriona Morten. I'm a sentimental psychotherapist.
And I'm Krista, and I'm the creator behind We Are Vega, and we are mother and daughter.
And today we thought it'd be better to have a conversation when we're looking at relationships, rather than me just talking, because it's a relational thing.
Yeah.
So we'll have a relational discussion about relationships.
Yeah, and plenty of people struggle with relationships, and there's so many different aspects of it that it's hard to condense into one video. So I think we'll do these as a series.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
For anyone that has any questions or queries, they can send them in. And before we jump into any of that, if you're enjoying these videos, give us a like.
Subscribe to our channel because it really helps us get out there and help more of you. So relationships are something that affect everybody.
Yeah.
You know, our kind of relationship, mother and daughter, family relationships with partners, intimate relationships, friendships,
work relationships,
yeah,
all sorts.
It's massive, and often we struggle with them. Because we don't know what's coming up and playing itself out.
Yeah.
When we're in that relationship.
And a lot of people struggling with repeating patterns of behaviour.
Yeah.
And without even realising it, they're doing it. But you can notice it when somebody else is doing that.
It's easy to see from the outside. It's very difficult to recognise what's happening when you're on the inside and it's actually happening around you.
Yeah.
And, you know, because then you're just trying to fix things, you're trying to work out what's going on.
Yeah.
And you can be very aware that you're reacting in a way that you wouldn't react if you were on your own or if you were with a friend. But somehow when it gets to that intimate level and you're more invested in it and kind of connected with the person, all kinds of attachment stuff starts playing out.
Yeah.
All sorts of things from our past come up. And sometimes when we look back, like you say, we can see a bit of a pattern.
Yeah.
Of either the type of person that we're attracted to.
Yeah.
Or the type of person that's attracted to us.
And it's hard to see when you're in it. When you're in the relationship, it's really hard to see that. But for a lot of people, when they're single, they can kind of figure this stuff out and then work on themselves, see a therapist, like you've had some clients. Yeah, and then they can get into a relationship and some things happen in the relationship and yeah, they get triggered and all sorts of stuff comes up.
Yep. But you're right about knowing when you're single, trying to work out what is your stuff.
Yeah. And
what's important to you and what you want out of a relationship, and looking back on what happened to you in the last relationship. Because all you can really take control over and responsibility for is your own stuff, because the other person's coming with their own stuff.
Yeah.
That will just be playing itself out. And so we can't have that great big messy mush of stuff. We have to know where ours is.
Yeah.
And it's a whole number of things. Like we've said, we're not going to cover them all today. This is a series.
Yeah.
But a lot of people kind of get lost. They lose themselves.
Yeah.
In a relationship. And if that triggers off something in your attachment, that means that either you've not really been seen, if you've had needs that have been squished, or you've been shamed for them, told that you're being difficult, or, you know, they've just been put down.
And that's all things that have happened in your attachment, your early years.
Yeah.
Your early experiences, and that's what can shape how you are in relationships later on, or in friendships.
Yep. Say you've grown up in an environment where you've had to always second guess. You know, if you've had a volatile family environment, things can change really quickly.
Yeah.
You don't see it coming. You can be blindsided by things. Like, things can turn very volatile very quickly.
Yeah.
Then your focus is always going to be, you know, on the people around you, keeping an eye on things, not on you. You might be the one that, you know, believes it's your job to try and sort everything out.
Yeah.
If only I could be more better behaved, or whatever it is, to stop this thing happening.
Yeah.
then we become super focused on meeting the needs of other people. And in a relationship, that will look like focusing on second guessing what the other person wants, meeting all the needs, but then
you're lost.
Yeah, just become invisible. And it's not all in that young attached part. You've also got your adult self that actually wants to be noticed and seen. But it might be really difficult to actually, show up.
Yeah.
And put your own views forward, put your own needs forward. It shows up a lot with things like food. I know that sounds bonkers, but often we will fall into the eating habits, patterns of the other person. Say, I don't like eating after about 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
If I meet someone who likes to eat at 8 o'clock, that's going to be really difficult.
Yeah.
And if I'm a bit people-pleasy,
which a lot of us are.
I don't know who you could be talking about. Yes. And, women are often the kind of homemaker, the nurturer. Well, some of us were. And so I think sometimes there's that propensity to give away some of our own stuff. I mean, relationships are about compromise.
Yeah.
You can't have two people coming together with their own funny ways and expecting it to be harmonious.
Yeah. But I guess a lot of people won't do that. They won't be willing to compromise. Sometimes you can have people in a relationship where the compromise is really difficult and they're fighting against it.
Yeah, I know that.
Or that you find that there's an off balance and there's one person doing a lot of compromising and the other person isn't. And it doesn't end up flipping back, so then I guess resentment builds in relationships then.
Yeah, that's the problem often with all those things playing out. We won't know why they're playing out and what the driving thing behind it is. But that kind of resentment that builds can just kind of come out sideways.
Yeah.
And if you've grown up and you've not been able to be direct about your needs, or your carers have not been direct, there's an expectation of what you should do, but they won't directly say it. Or if you've done something and they haven't liked it, they've been annoyed with you, they won't say it, you'll just get a sulk.
Yeah.
Or the silent treatment, or, is anything wrong? No. I mean, in relationships, that's a lot of what people, complain about. Yeah. Communication.
I think that's a big problem for a lot of people, and they don't realise it.
Well, if it's been really difficult, and if you haven't had experience of people being direct with you, or you've not been able to be direct, it's really hard to say. And if you don't like conflict, because a lot of people think that bringing something up is going to lead to a conflict, an argument, but it doesn't have to.
And I guess they can also be scared of somebody's reaction, and that's why they don't say a lot of things and they won't communicate, because if they've had an experience growing up, if they did say something, they got shouted at or told to just go away or something, they're going to be really worried about somebody's reaction. Or even if somebody's going to be too emotional, like if you have, when you said before about an anxious parent who's really anxious around the kid, so later on they would be a lot more just worried about if there's going to be kind of overreaction to something that you want to talk about or how you feel, and somebody's going to react in a way that's just too much to deal with for you.
Yeah, yep. And the kind of being direct, it can feel really exposing and vulnerable. But one of the worst things, the most disturbing things that we can get from someone else is being ignored.
Yeah, yeah.
And, that's from both a child, if we had a parent that just went quiet and ignored, that's really, really disturbing.
Yeah.
Because we can't read the other person, we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're not even told what we've done. And, that can play out in all kinds of ways. But there's a difference between not being able to be direct or meet your needs or say exactly how something makes you feel. There's a difference between that and being a bit manipulative with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't fill out a questionnaire when you meet somebody of
No.
what is your attachment style.
No, and I think a lot of people don't know their attachment
They
style.
don't know their
It's
own,
not
let
something they
alone-
even factor into why you might be a certain way in relationships and friendships, or why you might put up with things that realistically, as a friend, if you're watching somebody and you go, they need to be out of that relationship, they're putting up with stuff that isn't
Yeah.
okay, but in that relationship they will do it.
Well, a lot of people, especially if they've experienced difficult family life, and then that will be quite familiar.
Yeah.
And so even although they don't like it, there's a familiarity to it.
Yeah.
And, you know, if a parent has either stormed out of the house and disappeared for a while, or shut themselves in the room, or just ignored you, then that can have a genuine kind of fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
If I do this, you're going to take your love away.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's the whole area of conditional love and unconditional love.
Yeah.
I will love you on the condition that you do X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
or you're not X, Y, and Z. And so it feels as though that kind of love is very kind of fragile.
Yeah.
If I do the wrong thing, if I'm not a certain way, then that love will be taken away. Whereas unconditional love gives that message of the love is always there.
Yeah.
I will never withdraw my love. I might be annoyed with you, I might not like what you've done,
Yeah.
but the love is there. And so that means that for those people it's easier for things to
Yeah.
go wrong, because it's not like, well, the whole thing is going to end. And then there's another aspect of something that you and I and loads of people around us have been familiar with when people get into a relationship with a...
Narcissist.
It just keeps coming up
Yeah.
time and time again. And that's the kind of ultimate in manipulation
Yeah.
and gaslighting and nothing being direct.
Yeah.
It's like trying to play whack-a-mole, trying to work out what's going wrong and what's happening, and always with that sense of, well, if I just do X, Y, and Z, it'll be better. And when we don't understand that actually there's another agenda
Yeah.
at play, it's so discombobulating.
Yeah. And I guess a big part of that is for people that do end up in relationships with a narcissist, it's a common theme seems to be that they've got a real lack of self-worth.
What, the narcissist?
No, not the narcissist. The person that's, I guess, the victim of the narcissist. The person that is ended up in relationships with somebody like that they don't have the best self-worth, they don't value themselves, so they're almost a walking target for somebody who is going to make them feel less than, and like to make them feel less than.
Yeah. I think having a lack of self-worth is a huge head start
Yeah.
for a narcissist. That's a really good one to have. But the other thing is, they always go for an empath. And even if your self-worth is quite high, then they'll erode it.
Yeah.
And it makes it really, really difficult to maintain it because you're being gaslit and prodded.
Yeah.
But that takes manipulation to another level.
Yeah.
But there's often levels of manipulation, like through guilt, just in everyday kind of relationships.
And so, if people are really struggling with their relationships, would your advice be to look into your attachment style? Your attachment style plays such a big part in why you are the way you are.
Yeah, because if it's an attachment wound or something playing out from your attachment, our attachment is a part of our survival mechanism.
Yeah.
And so it's very spontaneous. It's very kind of fear-driven or emotional-driven. And so often we'll behave and afterwards go,
Why did I just do that? Yeah.
or even at the time going, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Texting somebody or going over to see them when you're just thinking, I said I wouldn't do this
Yeah.
again. What is it that's got me back in? Is it guilt? Is it
Yeah.
me believing that I can fix it? Is it was really good in the beginning and I want to get it back to that stage? It's really hard sometimes to look at, what am I doing? What am I trying to achieve? And what am I up against?
Yeah.
Is this pressing some old wounds from the past?
Yeah.
And if you can sit down, either with yourself, with, doing some research about attachment, kind of work out what your different attachment styles.
Yeah, and like we said before about, you can look at that in previous relationships and even like friendships, the way, what patterns keep playing them out, because a lot of people can be aware of, I keep doing this, I always go for the same person, this keeps happening.
Yeah, and something that happens a lot in friendships, especially if you've had a long-term friendship with someone, it's very difficult to say, I'm done, because some of that longevity gives it, it gives it real credence and value. Well, I can't, because I've known this person a long time.
Yeah.
I can't end the friendship.
Well, a lot of people feel like they're doing something wrong by doing that. It's like, you can't give up, you can't waste all that time or all that stuff you've built with somebody, that you can't just let it go, because it's like you've failed at life, you failed doing that, you failed friendships or relationships. So a lot of people stick at them and go, and a lot of the time they hope things will get better.
Do you think that there's a judgment on having had a failed relationship?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. People only seem to measure success in terms of it's lasted forever. Success only seems to be measured by you're successful if it's gone on forever and hasn't stopped.
And, we all know what the divorce rates are now. The amount of marriages, relationships that go on forever are fewer now than they've ever been. Do you still think that stigma's around?
Yeah.
That's interesting. You'd think it would get less because it's more commonplace.
Well, I just think it's always gonna be there, because somebody that's had a few different relationships, I guess, that have ended, it's like, oh well, that person fails at relationships, but not necessarily.
No, that's true, and it not lasting. I know someone that had an 18-year marriage, and when it finished, people in the family said, I knew it wouldn't last. It's like, it lasted 18 years.
Yeah, surely that is successful.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So,
and I think a lot of time people can just grow apart, but again, they don't want to make the change because it's too, I guess if you've had somebody for such a long time, it's too hard to walk away from that, because you've spent so much time building stuff, in the same way you said about friendships, that you spent so many years. But sometimes people change and people become different, and
absolutely they do.
change and you grow apart, and that should be normal.
Absolutely, it should. I mean, some friendships do. They last a lifetime.
Yeah, for sure.
But others do kind of fall by the wayside.
It's knowing at what point a friendship is done or relationship is done, and I think that's what people really struggle with.
How would you draw that line then?
Don't know.
Would it be how it's making you feel?
Yes, but then, well, for me personally, it can take a while to even get there sometimes. Or it has in the past. It's taken a while for even to me realise how I'm feeling.
I mean, some things would be easy if somebody did something absolutely abhorrent.
Yeah.
I mean, and that would be friendship.
Yeah, there's lines.
Relationship.
There's always lines, that the person has. They have certain lines and certain boundaries that once that's gone, that there is no going back with that.
Yeah, and I guess then you get into that nuanced place that you're talking about. How do you judge whether or not there's more positives to it or there's more negatives to it?
Yeah.
And it's really, how is it making me feel?
Yeah.
How is being with this person making me feel? Is it making me feel good and good about myself and happy and enthusiastic, whatever it is that you think is a good thing for you?
Yeah.
Or is it bringing you down? Or is it very one-sided?
Yeah.
For me, any relationship needs to be a balance.
Yeah.
Any friendship needs to be a balance. If
Yeah.
it's all about one, and again, and it does come back to attachment styles.
Yeah.
Or in, sensory motor terms, those kind of character strategies that are layers of different attachment styles, because it's an emerging, changing thing, attachment. It's not set in stone. And so, the different experiences that we have as we are going through life, they do leave an imprint, either a positive imprint or, a bit of a wound. It leaves something that forms how we're going forward. If you've got patterns that are coming up, then first thing, have a really good, honest discussion with, somebody that you're close to.
That you can trust.
That you can, that will, give you an honest, kind, that cares about you. Answer to just give you some insight on, what do you make of this? Because you want to start being able to unravel things, get to the bottom of things, work out what part you're playing, what's going on in this dynamic, observe it. Because then you can start making changes. Because even if you go, right, next time I'm going to do it completely differently, I'm going to go that way instead of that way, you'll end up back here. Very quickly.
So you have to kind of look at what's at the bottom of it, what's the root of what's going on with you.
What's coming up for you.
Yeah.
And then it can give you a bit of a heads up on either what to look out for, what to do differently, how to do it differently, change your expectations.
Or even if you're in a relationship and you're struggling, is this right for me?
Yeah, and knowing what your benchmarks are, when you can have a look at the dynamic of what's actually going on. That can be really helpful. If you're saying, we're having an argument, if you talk through it in a kind of structural way, well, what were you doing beforehand? What happened? Who said da-da-da-da? Not with the content, but the dynamic of what was actually playing itself out. Often we would get caught in the content and we'll lose all the really important stuff.
Well, a lot of us do need to take accountability and responsibility for
the
way we are.
Thing.
A lot of people won't do that, but it is hard to do.
And that means both owning and acknowledging and apologising for what was yours. But you can't apologise for the whole thing, because then you're taking responsibility for everything, and if you're taking it all, there's none left for the other person. So sharing it out, trying to get a balance, whether that's compromises, responsibility, needs being met, and just have a conversation with yourself. How would I like it to be? What would I want it to look like? How do I want to feel? It's important. So we've covered a lot of things. And
it just is like a general topic for now, but I think we'll do more videos like this where we're opening more discussion, and you with other people doing this as well.
Definitely.
But just to kind of, I think a lot of people struggle with relationships, so I think it'd be really helpful to have a ongoing series where we look at all kind of different aspects of it, to help people, because we are all built for relationships, that we exist with lots of different relationships. So and it's important
we're communal creatures.
It's important for everybody to feel loved and
valued,
respected, and have the needs met, and
be happy. That's all we're all really trying to do. Live a good life, be a good person, and be happy. Oh, it sounds so simple. That's so easily done.
If you've got any questions about relationships, or is there anything in particular that you struggle with, then just send them in, because you'll be absolutely happy to answer them.
100%. Yep.
And any questions on attachment, which we do have other videos, and I will link them in the description box below for you to browse the different attachment styles and see if you can spot anything that sounds, that's me, I recognise that.
It's our foundation blocks. It's really good knowing what our attachment styles and patterns are. It's very helpful.
And if you've enjoyed this video, then please give us a like,
subscribe to our channel,
and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Bye.